the East African Sub-Regional Support Initiative for the Advancement of Women presents. This is what the world has been.
There was need to continue the spirit of Beijing by monitoring implementation, especially by governments.
EASSI has stayed focused on that mandate.
And since then, this has been a major landmark.
Social justice. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. EASSI is here today to hear you out and help you out. So let us sing together, together as one. A mother of nations. Yeah,
July 1996. The Eastern African Sub-Region Support Initiative for the Advancement of Women, EASSI, was born.
Founders of EASSI participated in the 1995 conference in Beijing, and when they came back, they felt there was need to continue the spirit of Beijing by monitoring implementation, especially by governments, of the 12 critical areas of concern that emanated from the Beijing Platforms for Action.
On our road towards the Beijing conference, there was a program which was called National Facilitation Initiative for the Advancement of Women. This program was led by OECD, and it was for all regions of Africa. We went to the Beijing conference with the NFI, having coordinated country participation. When the Beijing conference was ended, NFI continued short time, but in our last meeting with the NFI, we said that let us formulate a body to continue to facilitate the process of implementation. So the 6 of us at that particular time became the founder members of this program called EASSI.
The 12 critical areas of concern of the Beijing Platform for Action are poverty, education, health, violence against women, armed conflict, the economy, power and decision-making, institutional mechanisms, human rights, media, environment, and the girl child. As it celebrates 20 years since its inception, has EASSI lived up to its sworn mandate?
Absolutely. As you certainly know, EASSI has the mandate to monitor the Beijing and the African Platforms for Action. And during the 20 years, EASSI has stayed focused on that mandate. And today, as we celebrate, I can proudly tell Africa, tell the world that EASSI has successfully delivered.
In the last 20 years of EASSI, EASSI has tried as much as possible to live to its mandate of bringing women together from the 8 countries that make up EASSI. And we have seen that EASSI has addressed issues of women in conflict, getting involved in the peace talks, in the Ugandan peace talks, in Kenya when we had the upheavals.
EASSI lifted up her mandate. Between many activities they have through the program, I think so, yes. But the challenge is still there. A lot of challenge still there to continue.
Several other instruments have come up after Beijing. So, how has EASSI managed to remain relevant?
The Beijing Platforms for Action are what I would call the basis of women's rights all over the world, actually, not only in Africa. But there are many things that have come up, like UN Security Council Resolution 1325. We had the Millennium Development Goals. We had Sustainable Development Goals. We have the Maputo Protocol in Africa. We have the Solemn Declaration on Gender Equality in Africa. We have different instruments, but these do not take away from Beijing. They are very reinforcing, and we have to use them side by side.
The Beijing Platform for Action is still relevant. It is all-encompassing. And up to now, it still stands as a historic instrument in regard to women's rights and gender equality, because 20 years ago, there wasn't as much commitment to women's rights and gender equality, especially by governments. But we see that when the Beijing Platform for Action was adopted by the 189 partner states, by then the governments came up with ministries, gender machineries. They came up with gender responsive constitutions, and since then this has been a major landmark.
EASSI works in 8 countries of Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Somalia and Eritrea, but with its headquarters in Kampala, Uganda. To celebrate its 20 years of existence, this video highlights some of the major achievements of EASSI along its journey.
The surveys we've done in our partner countries, we've surveyed on critical areas and produced evidence on what the gaps are in gender equality. Those studies have been used by governments, by partners of civil society, and they have been commending us for that.
Over the 20 years right now, EASSI's programs have grown, and beyond the research and advocacy, we've had programs that move into deeper analysis, deeper implementation, deeper engagement with partner states, with different players, development partners, and we realize that actually every other day, in terms of knowledge management on women's rights and gender equality, EASSI is really positioned to engage with the different stakeholders.
EASSI continues to empower women economically. We have built capacity of over 10,000 women in the region, in the 5 East African countries, on entrepreneurship, leadership, advocacy, and lobbying skills. And we go ahead to give them seed grants that have enabled them to establish small-scale income-generating activities.
Yes, he has set up a training center, a center of excellence on gender. The center is based in Uganda, where we have EASSI offices. And it is rare for organizations, especially at this time, to have their own property. But EASSI has built its own office.
Because of differences in culture, in political settings and in policies, what is the significance of EASSI to its member states?
Membership with EASSI has helped me realize that in the region we have similar problems which differ in dimensions. Problems to do with poverty, ignorance, disease, but also violence against women and children, female genital mutilation, child marriage, early pregnancy, inheritance issues. The list is long.
And at the country level, especially for Uganda, where the office is based, you can see that we've gone beyond and is now working on economic security and then have a strong native on sexual and gender-based violence.
The relationship between EASSI and its members has been a mutual one, give and take, which makes it beneficial to both parties. And so, to the women of this sub-region, EASSI has been a blessing in these 20 years, advocating for their needs and concerns.
Since I get into EASSI, I've been sensitized, especially I've got some, I was able to be taught about business management. I'm able to run that business very well.
Yeah, we thank EASSI because we have improvement across the border, especially 6 border in our Kenya sites, both women. We are empowered about capacity building through EASSI. That's the main major. We are thanking EASSI because of give us how we can fish but not give us fish.
At the moment I can trade freely, passing the normal road without fear. And then the other thing that I have started business. I used to have 1 business, but now I have 4.
The happy voices of women have been an inspiration to EASSI, giving it momentum to further advance women's rights and gender equality in Eastern Africa. But this journey has had its fair share of challenges.
We have had so many challenges. I would say the first one is that we are still donor dependent, 20 years after EASSI was formed. And this is a challenge because donors have their own agenda and they may not be supporting areas that we are interested in. For example, you might find it's quite difficult to raise funds for peace and security, or it's difficult to raise funds for women and health. The fact that we are still donor dependent 20 years after founding, I think for me that is really the main challenge.
EASSI is already looking ahead to the next 10 years, envisioning how to better speak for women in Eastern Africa.
We see ourselves establishing stronger bodies within the country. This way, there's better networking, better representation, and better impact. Unfortunately, it means that EASSI has to raise funding for such programs, and that's normally the challenge.
I would wish to see EASSI mobilizing more, engaging more the governments, and being in position to engage even the donors so that they may commit more funds, more resources to the women's cause, because there is a lot of work to be done.
I see EASSI as a center of excellence on gender. The fact that it has constructed a training center and has already started providing service to women's organizations, partner organizations. I think I see EASSI as a center of excellence for Eastern Africa sub-region, where different organizations will be sending their people for training, and EASSI will generate its own funds.
If there was a message to the women of the Eastern African sub-region, what would it be?
Let us complete EASSI House. Let us see EASSI grow in strength. To our beneficiaries out there in the East African region and Eritrea, Somalia and Ethiopia, I call upon you to support our programs.
For our partners and beneficiaries, I really have a message of heartfelt gratitude, because if EASSI is a great big NGO which is consulted regionally, consulted worldwide, it is because of our partners. I thank them very, very, very much, because we became what we are because of them.